Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to play a fingerstyle arrangement of changes by XXXTENTACION. So let's get into it. And before we start, you need to put a capo on the 4th fret of your guitar. And we're also in standard tuning, so this is going to be the 1st fret, which is actually the 5th fret of my guitar, but this is going to be the 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, and so on. So the song has 3 different sections. We have the intro, the verse, and the chorus. I'm going to start by playing the intro. It sounds like this. So you start by playing this chord where you have the 1st fret of the B string and the 3rd fret of the high E string. And you play it like this. So the first time you pluck the B string and the E string together, like that. And then you pluck the high E string 3 more times. And make sure the lower note on the B string rings throughout the part, so you have this. And after that you have the same idea, but between these two notes. Now you're playing the 2nd fret of the G string with your middle finger and the 3rd fret of the high E string. So now you have this. Again you start by plucking the G string and the high E string together. And then you play the high E string 3 more times. And after that you have this part. So now you have the 2nd fret of the D string and the 3rd fret of the high E string. And now you play that for 6 times. So it should sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're plucking the D string and the high E string together the first time, but the rest of the 5 times you're just playing the note on the high E string. So I'm going to play it again. It sounds like this. After that you play the open G string and then the high E string again. So the whole thing sounds like this. So if you count it, this G string comes on the end of the 6. So it's on the off beat. So if you count it, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you play the high E string again. So if I play the whole thing from the start, it sounds like this. And right after you played this part, in the end, you have this little fill that connects this part to the verse, which sounds like this. So there you're playing the open G string 2 times and the open B string once. And after that you play the 2nd fret of the G string and then pull off to the open G. And then you play the 4th fret of the D string. So that's the whole intro part. I'm going to play it very slowly from the start. It sounds like this. One more time. So that's it for the intro. Now we have the verse, which sounds like this. So right after you play the fill, you reach this note on the 4th fret of the D string. After that you have to make this chord, where you have the 3rd fret of the A string, the 4th fret of the D string, and the 2nd fret of the G string. So you play this, where you plug the A string and the open G string together, and then you hammer on onto the 2nd fret of the G string. And right after playing this, you have this part. So now you play the A string and then the D string. So the whole thing sounds like this. And after that you have this part. So there again you plug the A string and the open G string together. And then you hammer on onto the 2nd fret of the G string. And then you have this, where you plug the A string and the open G string together, and then you play the D string, like that. So I'll play the whole thing again slowly. It sounds like this. And if I play the whole thing from the start of the verse, it sounds like this. So I'm going to play from the start of the intro till this point of the verse to show you how the intro and the verse connects. So it should sound like this. And after that you have the exact same idea, but the only thing that changes is the bass note. So now instead of playing this note on the A string for the bass note, you have the open A string. So it should sound like this. So everything on the left hand is exactly the same. The only difference is you just have to lift this finger up to play the open A string. And everything on the right hand is also exactly the same. So from the start we have this. And after that we have this part. You have the same idea again, but the bass note this time changes to the low E string. So you have this. And after that you have to play the same part again, but you just have to add that little fill that you learned in the end of the intro. So it should sound like this. So just to explain that part in the end, you have this. So you start by playing this. So there you're playing the low E string and the open G string together. And then you hammer on onto the 2nd fret of the G string. And then you play this, where you have the open low E string and then the G string. In the end, so far you have this, and after that you have this. So there you play the low E string again, and then you play the G string twice, which is open, and then you have this, where you plug the low E string and the open B string together, and then you play the 2nd fret of the G string, and then you pull off to the open G string, and then you play the 4th fret of the D string. So the whole thing slowly sounds like this. So if you play from the part of the verse where you change to the low E string for the bass note, you have this. So if you play from the start of the verse till this point, it should sound like this. Part you play is exactly the same as this part, but the very end where you play that little fill is slightly different. So I'm going to play it once for you. It sounds like this. So there in the end you just have to stop playing the bass notes on the low E string when you start playing the fill. So it sounds like this. I'll play it again slowly. So that's it for the verse. I'm going to play the whole thing once. It sounds like this. After that we have the chorus, which sounds like this. So when you're playing that little fill in the end of the verse, if you're playing it like this, where you're ending on the 4th fret of the D string with your ring finger, you'll have to change your fingering a little bit. So instead of using your ring finger to play that note, use the little finger over there, which will make it easier to play the next part for the chorus. So if you play it with the correct fingering, it should look like this. And right after the fill, you have this part. So you start the chorus by playing this part. So you start by playing the 3rd fret of the A string and the open G string together, and then you hammer on onto the 2nd fret of the G string. And after that you have this. So there you play the 3rd fret of the A string first, and then you play the open G string 2 times, and then you have this, where you plug the 3rd fret of the A string and the open G string together, and then you bring in this note on the 2nd fret, and then you play the open B string. So the whole thing sounds like this. one more time. And after that you have this part. So right there you have to do a hammer on and pull off on the first fret of the B string. So you have this. And also when you are pulling off from that note, you just have to add a bass note which you have to play at the same time when you pull off. So it should sound like this. So probably the most challenging bit there is to get the pull off right with the bass note. Like that. So it'll help if you practice just the pull off part slowly like this. Just to practice the syncing when you're playing the pull off with the bass note. And make sure they're happening at the same time. So if I again play it from the start slowly, it should sound like this. And after that you have this part. So there again the bass note changes to the open A string. So you have this. So there again you start by playing the note on the second fret of the G string twice. And then you have this, where you play the open A string, and then you pull off from the second fret of the G string to the open G string. And then you play the note on the second fret of the D string. So the whole thing sounds like this. And you just add that bass note on the A string again in the end. Like that. So from the start of the chorus till here we have this. And after that we have this part. So you kind of repeat the same idea, so you have this. So there you start by playing the open G string 2 times like this. And then you play the open G string with the open A string. And then you have this, where you play the second fret of the G string and then the open B string. So far you have this. After that you lift up your index finger to do the hammer on and pull off on the first fret of the B string. And this time again while pulling off you have to play the open A string for the bass note. And after that you have this part. So there you have to play the note on the second fret of the G string twice. And then you play the low E string. And then you pull off from the second fret of the G string to the open G string. And then you play the note on the second fret of the D string in the end. So the whole thing sounds like this. So far from the start you have this. And after that you have this part. So now again you have almost the same idea, but now the bass note is on the low E string. So we start by playing this, where we start by playing the open G string 2 times, and then we have this, where we plug the open low E string and the open G string together, and then you play the second fret of the G string, and then the open B string. So the whole thing sounds like this. And after that you do the hammer on and pull off. Again the same way, while pulling off you play the bass note. And then you have this. So you start by playing the note on the second fret of the G string 2 times. And then you have this, where you play the open low E string and then you pull off from the note of the 2nd fret of the G string. So the whole thing sounds like this. And after that you play this note on the 2nd fret of the D string and then you play the open low E string. So the whole thing sounds like this. I'll play that again. And so far from the start you have this. And after that you have this part. So there you play the open G string once, followed by the bass note on the low E string 2 times, like this. And after that you have this part, where you slide in from the 5th fret of the A string to the 3rd fret and then pull off to the 2nd fret. Like that. And after that you play this note on the 3rd fret again of the A string, and you play that with the open G string. So you plug the A string and the G string together, like that. So this part with the fill sounds like this. So if I play it from the start of the chorus to this part, it sounds like this. And after that you continue and repeat the same part. So it sounds like this. So there again you stop playing the bass notes on the low E string once you reach this note on the open G string. And then you play that little fill that you played before when you move from the verse into the chorus. It's exactly the same. And after that the song goes back into the verse, which is exactly the same as the first verse that you played before. So right after you played this, you go back into the verse. And so on. So I'm going to play the whole chorus once from the start. It sounds like this. And then it moves back into the verse. After you're done playing this chorus, the song goes back into the verse, which is the 2nd verse, and after that there's a 3rd verse. The 2nd verse and the 3rd verse are exactly the same as the first verse that you learned before. So if you think about the song structure, we start with the intro, then we have the verse, and then we have the chorus. After that we have the 2nd verse and the 3rd verse, both of which are exactly the same as the first verse, and after the 3rd verse the song ends. So that's the whole song. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helped. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, then subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have any questions or requests for song tutorials, then do let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.